everybody. Yeah, we have a quorum. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, on March 29th, 2023, Governor Maura Healey signed into law an act making appropriations for fiscal year 2023 to provide for supplementing certain existing appropriations and for certain other activities and projects. This act includes an extension until March 31st, 2025. I can hear Chris Coleman in my ear. Other remote meeting provisions. December 9th, 2024 Select Board meeting will be conducted via remote participation by the board. I will grant permission to Westwood Media Center to record the meeting and to anyone else who wishes to record the meeting. Unlike our last two meetings, we have a pretty full agenda tonight. I spent a good part of the weekend and today working on that. So I want to remind folks about a couple of ground rules. First of all, if you would like to submit a question, use the Q&A feature. And Tish, if I get this wrong, please feel free to correct me. Use the Q&A feature. First, type your name and address, and then type the question or comment. Secondly, if you would like to speak, please use the raise your hand button. When you're recognized, please start by telling us your name and your address. You may then ask your question or make your comment. I will impose a 2-minute limit, as I have done since becoming chair, for all of the speakers, with the exception of the applicants, town staff, and subject matter experts. I reserve the right to make any necessary exceptions as necessary. Lastly, we appreciate your comments. We may not be able to answer your questions, and we may not be able to do so at this time. Please remember to type your name and address before typing your question. Thank you very much. Chair's update. Westwood Public Safety Toys for Tots collection. The Westwood Public Safety Communications team, in conjunction with our Westwood firefighters and the police department, are collecting toys for Tots for the Marine Foundation Toys for Tots. While Toys for Tots coordinators organize, coordinate, and manage the campaign, the ultimate success depends on the support of local community and the generosity of people who donate the toys. We are requesting donations of new and unwrapped toys to be dropped off at any of the following locations up to December 15th. Westwood Police Station on High Street, the Westwood Fire Station on High Street, and the Westwood Fire Station at 300 Washington Street, Islington. Second thing I want to mention, which is pretty exciting, is Wreaths Across America ceremony. This will take place December 14th at the new Westwood Cemetery. And this evening we have Michelle Miller and Tish. Is Noah, did he get to log in?
Yes, he's on.
Great, okay.
Noah.
Hi.
Just a quick thing. Wreaths Across America is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to remember the fallen, honor those who serve, and teach the next generation the value of freedom. They execute this mission in a number of ways, but the most public way is to decorate veterans' graves with a wreath in December. The Westwood Youth Hockey Association places wreaths, the WAA places wreaths in the graves of Arlington National Cemetery and across the country. Westwood Youth Hockey will sponsor the Wreaths Across America program in Westwood for this year and has raised funding to decorate almost 900 veterans' graves with wreaths. Westwood Youth Hockey, great organization, will hold a ceremony on Saturday, December 14th, 2024 at 2 p.m. at the new Westwood Cemetery. And I'll turn this over to Michelle and to Noah if you folks would like to add to that.
No, I would just like to say thank you for recognizing the event and that it is open to the community. So our hope is that we get it off the ground this year as a first, but an annual event. And there's roughly 900 veterans buried in our cemeteries, so it's a bit of a lift to get to that number from the fundraising. So we're hoping to get community involvement going forward. But just thank you for bringing it to everyone's attention.
Oh, thank you so much, and thank you for the invite. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful gesture and a great organization, and you guys do some great stuff with the youth hockey. Marianne or Rob, would you like to say anything?
Just echo your thanks for the great work on this very worthy project. Thank you.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure.
And Noah, how close are you to what your goal needs to be able to have the funds for
decorating those 900 grave sites.
We're very fortunate. We actually, for year one, we're over our goal of the 900. So the organization itself is great, and they will credit us. I think we're 117 wreaths over the 900, so that goes towards next year's event.
Fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Strong work.
Thank you, Noah. Michelle, are you good?
Great. Noah's got it. And a big thanks to Noah and Westwood Youth Hockey. This was a huge undertaking, and it'll be really appreciated by these families. So thanks, Noah and Westwood Youth Hockey.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Noah. Let's move on to town administrators update. Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, just have one update just to inform the residents that we are looking for a poet laureate. We have a poet laureate position that's posted. The posting is from December 1st through January 8th. The primary goal of the Western Poet Laureate is to promote public awareness of poetry in the town. To do so, the poet laureate duties are to encourage reading, writing poetry by creating programs and holding events for the town, such as workshops for writers, readings, poetry slams, and other events throughout the town and the schools. We have some information on our website. If anyone is interested, to please visit the website and fill out that application for this very unique and important role. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. All right, let's move on to scheduled action. Okay. We're going to review the change of officer request from the Norfolk Golf Club. Attending is Nora Loughnane and Dave O'Leary, the club representative. Norfolk Golf Club has submitted their annual officer board members application naming their 2025 officers: Robert Wright, President; Michael Brown, VP; Linda Healy, Treasurer; and Matthew Patterson as Secretary. Would you like to take this away, Nora?
Sure. So this is, I believe this is a hearing, is that correct? Or am I mistaken? Is this not?
I don't believe so.
Okay, all right. So there are two items for from the
Yes.
Norfolk Golf Club. The first is the change of officers, and then the next one is a request for extension of hours. So with the change of officers, as you mentioned, the new officers are Robert Wright as president, Michael Brown as vice president, Linda Healy as treasurer, and Matthew Patterson as secretary. In addition, as Michael Brown is being moved to the vice president position, his seat on the board opens up, and a member, Dennis Kelly, who's a current member of the board, but whose term was set to expire this year, he's been appointed to fill out the remainder of Michael Brown's term, which then that new term, the remainder term that Dennis will move into, will expire at the end of 2025. So this was reviewed by the Alcohol Review Committee, and they recommended unanimously that the board grant approval for the change of officers.
Thank you, Nora. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I would. I move that the select board approve the change of officers and board members application for Norfolk Golf Club for the 2025 license year, pending Alcohol Beverages Control Commission approval, and for the electronic signatures of the select board to be affixed to the Alcohol Beverages Control Commission Licensing Authority certification.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Rob. Roll call, Mary Ann,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well, unanimous. Nora, if you'd like to take the second
Yes.
matter, which is the Mother's Day Brunch Annual Hours Extension.
Yes, so this request comes to you every year. The Norfolk Golf Club holds a Sunday brunch, and a number of years ago, they moved to having 2 seatings so they can accommodate a larger crowd. The first seating begins at 10 a.m. and that therefore requires an extension of their alcohol service for that one day. So the date is Mother's Day, Sunday, May 11th, and they are requesting to start their service of alcohol at 10 a.m. on that day. As I said, this has been going on for many years and there's never been an incident. So the Alcohol Review Committee again unanimously recommends that the board grant this extension.
Thank you. Nora, any questions, Rob or Mary Ann? No, okay. Mary Ann, would you like to make a motion?
I would.
Thank
I
you.
move that the select board grant permission to Norfolk Golf Club for an extension of alcohol service to begin at 10 a.m. on May 11, 2025 for their annual Mother's Day brunch.
And I'll second that motion.
Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, roll call. Mary Ann?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
I vote aye as well, unanimous. Thank you, Nora. Which brings us down to Comella's. This is, we're going to review the change of manager application for 745 Comella's LLC, doing business as Comella's at 745 High Street. In attendance, we have Nora and Catherine Lendrum, the manager. Nora, would you like to speak on this?
Yes. So this is a change of manager application for Comella's on High Street. Catherine Lendrum has been a manager at this location for, I think, since 2021, and has actually been working at Comella's since high school, right? 2018, for quite a while. Catherine is a former Westwood resident. She is currently living in Pawtucket, but moving to Attleboro tomorrow. So there's a condition in the select board's rules and regulations for alcohol. Although the state only requires that a manager be a United States citizen, Westwood requires that the manager be a Massachusetts resident as well. You've waived this requirement in a couple of cases, and by the time by tomorrow, it won't be an issue, but because you're approving this tonight, we're asking that you grant a waiver of the requirement that the manager be a Massachusetts resident, so Catherine can move into that position immediately. This has been reviewed by the Alcohol Review Committee, and they noted that there have been 2 past instances where the select board has waived this requirement, once for a manager at Anthony's and another time for a manager at Smashburger. And the board did so understanding that cost of housing in Massachusetts, especially closer to Westwood, can be very expensive. And it's often the case that people living in Rhode Island are actually closer to Westwood than people living in other parts of Massachusetts. So again, the Alcohol Review Committee reviewed this and unanimously recommends the board's approval.
Excellent, thank you, Nora. Rob and Mary Ann, do you folks have any questions?
Catherine, I just hope that the move is coincidental and not precipitated by any of this meeting. We know you're a lifelong resident, grew up here, so feeling good.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks, Rob. Mary Ann, would you like to make a motion?
I would. I move that the select board waive the Massachusetts residency requirement of section 2, number 3 of the Westwood Rules and Regulations governing alcoholic beverages, and grant approval to Catherine Lendrum being named manager of record at Comella's pending Alcohol Beverages Control Commission approval, and also for the electronic signatures of the select board to be affixed to the Alcohol Beverages Control Commission Licensing Authority certification form.
Second that motion.
Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, roll call. Mary Ann?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Motion is unanimous. Which brings us to Nora. This is our public hearing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So we have this is where Rob's gonna play shortstop for me. This is our license renewal of common victualler, mobile food truck, on-premise alcohol, off-premise alcohol, entertainment, class 1A automobile dealers, junk dealers, livery, taxi company, and unattended donation containers for 2025. The select board is the local licensing authority to conduct public hearings to consider renewal for following licenses that I just read. I would be happy to entertain a motion to open this hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. Mary Ann?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. All right, and Rob, I think last year, didn't we handle this? You
Happy to take the lead on this one, Mr. Chair, if you like.
you grabbed a line drive and ran with it. You did a great job.
So we are going to go through category by category and renew a number of licenses, beginning with the common controller license. We have one, Birdie's Creative Creamery at 305 Washington Street. Then BB's Cafe at 1 Church Street, Birdie's Hot Chicken at 135 University Ave, Bubbling Brook at 1652 High Street, Chipotle at 217 University Ave, Dunkin' Donuts, the Grinder Donuts, Coffee Grinder Donuts, Inc. on 400 Washington Street. Then there's Dunkin' Donuts High Street Donuts, Inc. at 915 High Street. Then there's Dunkin' Donuts Medway Donuts, Inc. at 115. That looks like that got cut off, so.
Providence Highway.
Thank you very much. Oh, see it down there. Okay, then we've got Dunkin' Donuts, Westwood Donuts at 208 Providence Highway. We've got Islington Pizza and Sub at 315 Washington Street, Lifetime Bistro at 44 Harvard Street, Lifetime Cafe at 44 Harvard Street, Muffin House Cafe at 296 Washington Street, Neroli Mercado at 274 Washington Street, Panda Express at 125 University Ave, Panera Bread at 201 University Ave, Playa Bowls at 745 High Street, Pokey Brothers at 127 High Street, Sebastian's at 247 Station Drive, Smash Burger at 203 University Ave, Starbucks at 101 University Ave, Starbucks Coffee at 736 High Street, Target at 221 University Ave, Tastefully Done Restaurant and Catering at 1 University Ave, Westwood Jade at 220 Providence Highway, Westwood Pizza at 929 High Street, and Wegmans at 169 University Avenue. Before we move on to mobile food and licensing, any holds on that? Any of those? Okay, if not, we're going to move on to mobile food truck license. Actually, point of order, Mr. Pat Ahern, would you, town council, would you like us to do these in bulk, or would you like us to do them category by category?
Category by category would be, I think, more proper.
Okay, so
Need a motion.
If I could just note two things for that motion. One is that all of those licenses would be pending public safety inspections and approval by the Alcohol Beverage Control Commission. And I'd also want to point out that two of them, Bubbling Brook and Lifetime Bistro, would also require special inspections in the spring because they're seasonal businesses.
Thank you, Nora. I think we're ready, Mary Ann.
With those amendments, as stated by Nora, so moved.
second.
Roll call, Mary Ann,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
I vote aye as well, unanimous. You're up,
Next
Rob.
category is a very small one. It's Paul's Canteen and the mobile food truck licensing at 356 School Street, Stoughton, Mass. 02072.
Anything special on this, Nora?
That would also be subject to public safety inspections.
Mary Ann,
Move to approve the mobile food truck license for Paul's Canteen, subject to public safety inspection.
Second.
roll call, Mary Ann,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
I vote aye as well, unanimous.
Section 12 is the on-premise all alcohol CV licenses. We have Anthony's Coal Fired Pizza at 119 University Ave, Barcino at 569 High Street, the Courtyard Boston Dedham, Westwood 64 at 64 University Avenue, Del Fisco's Grill at 60 University Ave, Neroli at 282 Washington Street, Norfolk Golf Club at 166 East Street, Not Your Average Joe's at 70 University Ave, and Wild Blossom at 301 Washington Street.
Nora, I assume the same safety inspections?
Safety inspections and approval by the Alcohol Beverage Control Commission.
Thank you. Mary Ann,
I move that we approve the on-premise all alcohol CV licenses for the establishments noted, subject to public safety inspections and for the electronic signatures of the select board to be affixed to the 2025 Alcohol Beverages Control Commission Licensing Authority forms.
Second.
roll call, Mary Ann,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
I vote aye as well, unanimous.
All right, next is Section 12 on-premise wine and malt. This is a CV license. We have Blue Orchid at 2 927 High Street, Comella's at 745 High Street, the Toast Office at 679 High Street. And that's,
Those those three would be subject to public safety inspections and approval by the Alcohol Beverage Commission.
Thank you, Nora. Mary Ann?
Move to approve the on-premise wine and malt CV license for the establishments stated subject to Public Safety and Alcohol Beverages Control Commission authority. Is that proper, Nora?
Alcohol Beverage Control Commission.
Yep. Thank you.
I second that.
Roll call, Mary Ann?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
I vote aye as well, unanimous.
Next up, we have section 15, off-premise wine and malt, and that is Neroli Mercado at 274 Washington Street, Pollard's Test Kitchen at 687 High Street, Roche Brothers Supermarket at 338 Washington Street, Lambert's Rainbow Fruit at 220 Providence Highway, and Wegmans at 169 University Ave.
Subject to public safety inspections and approval by the Alcohol Beverage Commission. Alcohol Beverage Control Commission.
Mary Ann?
I hereby move that we approve the off-premise wine and malt licenses for the establishments stated, subject to public safety inspections and approval by the Alcohol Beverages Control Commission.
I second that.
Roll call, Mary Ann?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
I vote aye as well, unanimous.
Next up, we have entertainment licenses for Anthony's Coal Fired Pizza at 119 University Avenue, Barcino at 569 High Street, Neroli at 282 Washington Street, and Not Your Average Joe's at 70 University Ave. We have several more. We have Blue Orchid at 927 High Street, Comella's at 745 High Street, Courtyard Boston Dedham in Westwood, and that's at 64 University Ave, Del Frisco's Grill at 60 University Ave, the Toast Office at 679 High Street, Wegmans at 169 University Avenue, Wild Blossom at 301 Washington Street.
And those are only subject to public safety inspections.
Mary Ann?
Move to approve the entertainment licenses for the establishments stated, subject to public safety inspections.
Second.
Roll call, Mary Ann?
Aye.
Rob? I vote aye as well, unanimous.
All right, next up, we have taxi company licenses. We have American Taxi at 246 Manhattan Street in Norwood at 02062. We have Norfolk Town Taxi at 518 Hilltop Drive in Walpole, 02081. And then we have Maurice Cab at 26 Congress Place in Dedham, Mass, 02026.
All subject to public safety inspections.
I move that we approve the taxi company licenses for the establishments stated, subject to public safety inspections.
A second.
Roll call, Mary Ann?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
I vote aye as well.
All right, next up, we have a livery license for Boston Carriage of 91 Providence Highway.
I assume subject to public safety inspection, Nora?
Yes.
Thank you. Mary Ann?
I move that we approve the livery license for Boston Carriage, subject to public safety inspection.
Second.
Roll call, Mary Ann?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
I vote aye as well.
Next, we have a junkyard license for Donald Bainey Jewelers at 145 University Avenue.
Subject to public safety inspections.
I hereby move that we approve the junk dealer license for Dalabani Jewelers, subject to public safety inspections.
Second.
Roll call, Mary Ann?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
I vote aye as well.
We have unattended donation container license at Bay Street Books at 60 Manhattan Street, Bay State Textiles at 7 Clabbertree Street, Windward Trading LLC at 60 Manhattan Street, CMRK at St. Denis, 157 Washington Street, and CMRK at St. Margaret Mary, 845 High Street.
All subject to public safety inspections.
Okay, thank you. Mary Ann?
I hereby move that we approve the unattended donation container licenses for the stated establishments subject to public safety inspections.
And finally, we have Class 1 auto dealer license renewals for Audi Westwood at 375 Providence Highway, Porsche Westwood at 4.
Before you go too far, do we vote on the United?
I may not have seconded that motion.
I think you did. Yep. Okay, so now it's seconded. Roll call, Mary Ann?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
I vote aye as well, unanimous. Okay, Rob, bring it home.
Thank you. Class 1 auto dealer licenses at Audi Westwood, 375 Providence Highway, Porsche Westwood, 411 Providence Highway, Mercedes-Benz of Westwood, 425 Providence Highway, Ira Acura of Westwood at 395 Providence Highway, Ira Mazda at 420 Providence Highway, and Aston Martin Boston at 340 Providence Highway.
Again, subject to public safety inspections.
I hereby move that we approve the Class 1 auto dealer licenses for the stated establishments subject to public safety inspections.
Second.
Roll call, Mary Ann?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you.
Rob, nice work. Thank you, Nora.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Should we just check for public comment first?
Sure.
No public comment.
Okay.
Let's see.
Move to close the public hearing on license renewal.
Second.
Roll call, Mary Ann?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Which brings us to, thank you again, Rob. Nice work.
Sure thing.
Islington Center redevelopment traffic signal timing study update. The purpose is to provide the select board with an update on the proposed traffic signalization changes at Washington Street, East Street, School Street intersection. Nora, I hope you didn't go far. We have Nora, Giorgio Petruzziolo, Ken Cram, and Dennis Flynn. Nora, would you like to lead off on this?
Sure. So this has been before the board a couple of times. It involves changes in the signalization at the Washington Street, East Street, School Street intersection. Right now, there's a dedicated left turn movement if you're going north on Washington Street to turn left onto School Street. But there is no dedicated left turn movement if you're coming south on Washington Street to go onto East Street. The plan is to change that so that you now will have a dedicated left turn arrow from southbound Washington Street onto East Street, but the left turn arrow from northbound Washington Street onto School Street will be removed. In order to accomplish this, they are going to remove and replace the mast arm that holds the signals for the southbound traffic. So probably Ken can explain it a little bit better than I can. But it was requested that they appear before you tonight to give you an update on the progress in the engineering plans and timing of the actual implementation.
Thank you, Nora. Is Ken with us?
Yes. Ken Cram is a panelist.
Ken, you're on mute.
Here he is.
Yeah, I'm here. Unfortunately, I don't see Peter or Giorgio.
They're both here.
They're both here.
All right. Yes, we've provided a set of plans. Dennis has reviewed them. We got comments officially back on Friday. We took a quick stab at addressing those, and Nora was smart enough to point out that we had the word southbound when we should have said northbound or vice versa in a couple of spots. But effectively, we have the plans completed. And yes, the northbound advance phase will be eliminated and a southbound advance phase will be created. We're going to switch a couple of signal heads, put a new mast arm in, and go from there. In terms of schedule of implementation, it's probably going to be 6 to 9 months, give or take. Signal equipment is a long lead item these days. and talking with a few people here at our office, for a single mast arm pole and mast arm, they said probably 6 to 9 months would be a good range. If you were doing a whole new signal intersection, standard four-way intersection, for instance, it would be most likely 9 to 12 months to get all the necessary equipment. So if, once we get a final set of plans, we can get them to the town's contractor to get them to order the equipment to get it installed.
Thank you, Ken. Dennis, did you have anything you wanted to say?
Good evening. Yes, thank you. So yeah, just picking up, building off what Ken said. Yeah, the process there carried out, just to see described. I think, a little bit of back and forth here, sort of prior to leading up to this meeting. I think with the information that's provided, maybe just some clarification on some things in the notes, just to make sure that's clear and everybody understands the intent. Nothing critical. The most significant comments that we had definitely look like they've been addressed and accounted for. And I think really just the overall approach is being conveyed. I think it's just a matter of just, some labeling and just making sure it's described correctly, and there's no confusion there, just so when it is given to a contractor, everything is seamless and goes as smoothly as possible. But yeah, just looking at, the critical items in the plans and what we had commented on, as Ken mentioned last week, that appears to be conveyed correctly. I think it's just a matter, I think, Nora, you had, as Ken had pointed out, some clarification questions. I think typo on my end in my haste, so thank you for pointing that out. Keep getting the northbound confused, which we shouldn't be doing at this point. But I think that's really about it. Otherwise, the overall approach looks to be solid, and there's no concerns on our end with that.
All
So
right, so yeah,
Would it be
That's
fair
good.
to say that the work could begin in early fall?
With that, based on that lead time, that if you're asking me, I guess based on that lead time that Ken pointed out, I would say, yeah, that makes sense.
I agree.
but Ken, you said it's 6 to 9 months, but you still need to get the plans and the specs to the town's traffic person or contract. I think it's Oceanside, Ocean State or something.
Mass Bay Electric.
Okay. And when can you get those to Mass Bay Electric?
Oh, probably say a week.
Okay. So then, Nora, I think we're in that time frame that you mentioned. And the only other question I have is for Dennis. Dennis, can you explain to me that you put in that all detectors capable of bicycle detection? Can you tell me what that's about?
Was that from me?
I believe so. Well, if you can't tell me what it is, can you tell me, Ken?
Is there a note on the, just to clarify, a note on the plans that states that?
I don't recall. I wish I had Ariana on the phone. Because
okay.
but
Yeah,
we can,
so this is a note, just so this is actually on one of the plan, if I think, if I'm looking at the right thing here on plan sheet, what's called CT 004, there's a note at the bottom
Yes,
that
that's
says all
correct.
detectors shall be capable of bicycle detection. So I think that's just really a carryover from the existing layout and conditions of the intersection. There is not a this is not going to be replacing the existing detection. That wasn't part of the change. So the idea is that the loop detection loop detections out there now is capable of detecting bicycles. So that really is just carrying forward or carrying over something that was established when those loops were put in. That's not a new something new being proposed.
Well, Dennis, I'm glad we've got the loops. What the heck are they? What is it?
Oh, the loops, those are for just as get into a little bit of the weeds here. No, that's fine. So those are basically, those are the inductance loops that are in the pavement that essentially measures the presence of a vehicle as it travels into the intersection, essentially measuring the change in induction between no vehicle being there and a vehicle being there with an electromagnetic field coming off those loops that are in the ground. And that essentially sends a signal or an indication to the traffic signal controller that alerts it that there's a vehicle. So as it states in the table, the operations is what's called presence. And so when a vehicle's there, it detects them, their presence, and then if there's as the signal is serving that particular approach, it will continue to extend the green time as long as it's detecting vehicles driving over those loops up to what's specified in the controller.
So they
So
will,
it may be getting a little technical there, but
no, I wanted the edification. So it will detect a bicycle if it goes over that induction loop.
according to this note, yeah, that should have been established as part of the loops that went in there previously.
Thank you. All right, well, this was very informative. Mary Ann or
Chair?
Rob, you, yes.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Director Corchin has his hands up. I believe he wants to add to that.
Yeah, just briefly. Thank you, Rob. Ken and company, I just want to make sure, and Dennis as well, obviously, just make sure we're all on the same page with our schedule for paving on Washington Street. And as we progress and as we secure a vendor to do the mast arm, that they stay far and clear from the pavement. That's going to be relatively new if they're aggressive enough to get this done by September or October of next year.
We will make sure we coordinate.
Okay. And then, the question was brought up about striping. We can certainly coordinate on our end. Once we consult, I'll obviously use Beta, and Dennis will be in the loop with each other with respect to just the layout. Once that's resurfaced, we can just lay it out accordingly as far as lane reconfiguration.
Can I just ask for clarification? I don't believe there is any change to the configuration of the striping on the pavement. That remains as is. It's only a change to the signals.
Correct.
Would there be any recommendation as far as any handwork though, arrows, or no, we're gonna just keep everything exactly the same then?
Yes, because the lane uses are still the same effectively.
Okay, so no left turn, nothing.
No exclusive left turn lanes.
Okay.
They're still shared.
Easy enough for us then. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Todd.
And I was just wondering, once installation starts, how long is that process expected to last?
I don't have an answer for that question off the top of my head, but the time to dig the hole, set the foundation, let the foundation concrete set. There's a certain period of time for that, depending on the concrete itself and the time of year. And then once that can be done right now, as a matter of fact, technically, because it's, you're not going to be doing anything to mess with the traffic signals right now. So that can be done just about any time. But of course, you don't want to have, a simple foundation with it, 6-8 inches sticking up out of the ground that someone could possibly trip over. But that could be done. It's like I said, the long lead item is getting the signal equipment, the mast arm pole and the mast arm itself ordered. That's the long lead item. So usually these things can take just a couple of days, if that, to put them up once the foundation's in and it's set to be able to receive the mast arm pole.
Thank you. And thank you to all of you for all of your work on this.
All right, Tish, I don't see any hand raised or anything. Are we missing anybody?
No, no questions.
All right, Ken, thank you very much. Todd, thanks for weighing in. Appreciate it. Thank you, Nora.
Thank you.
And all right, I think you're off the hook on the next one. Next, we have our Canton Street project update. We're going to get an update on the Canton Street project from members of the Canton Street Project Working Group, Mary Ann and Steve Rasky. Is Steve here?
Would you be able to bring
I'm
him
bringing
in?
Steve in right now. He's joining right now.
Are you
Here it
taking the
is.
lead on this, Mary Ann?
Yes, with Steve.
Great, thanks.
There he is. Hi, Steve.
Good evening.
Thanks for joining us. And thank you, Joe. We're very happy to give this update on the Canton Street Working Group. So by way of very brief review, as you will recall, over a year ago, this board voted to pursue an alternative design for the Canton Street project, given the widespread opposition to the original 25% plan and based on waivers under the TIP project that were previously unavailable. So in December of 2023, this board voted to create a working group to provide input into the redesign for the project. We solicited volunteers, and from the group of 14 people who volunteered, the following people were selected to serve on the working group: Ed Driscoll, Grace Doshi, Steve Rafsky, Maureen White, Amy Yale, Gary Yasalian, Ellen Rawlings as Planning Board Representative, Tom McShane as Ped Bike Advisory Committee Representative, and ex officio members: Nora Loughnane, Todd Korchin, Brendan Ryan, Fire Chief Steve Lund, and Police Officer Frank Baker. I asked Steve Rafsky, who is a longtime Canton Street resident and a former planning board chair, to co-chair the working group with me. And I also asked Steve to primarily facilitate our meetings, as I thought it was important that our conversation be primarily among residents in the neighborhood. I want to publicly thank Steve for his significant public service over the last year, as well as all of the very hardworking members of the working group. Jonathan Rockwell from TEC has also been working with the working group as a consultant and has been very responsive to us. So from January 2024 to November 2024, the working group met 7 times to review the project plan. Also, a smaller working group of the working group, comprised of Steve, Ed, Gary, and Nora, met numerous times to view the plan as divided into sections of Canton Street and to craft solutions. The working group has focused on increasing safety for all users of the road: pedestrians, motorists, and cyclists. We've focused on improving access and connectivity, and also preserving the character of Canton Street, which is, of course, a scenic way. All of the meetings of the full working group and the smaller working group were noticed and open to the public, and all of the meetings of the full working group were recorded and are available through the Westwood Media Center website. Based on all of this work, TEC presented the working group with revised conceptual plans, which, as you'll hear in a bit more detail from Steve in a moment, shrunk the project substantially, with all of the proposed work now being done entirely within the county right-of-way. While we were able to take public comment at many of our meetings, the working group also held a meeting primarily focused on public comment on October 7th, with over 100 residents in attendance who were encouraged to share their comments and concerns about the project. I want to underscore here that all of the progress which has been made to date is entirely due to the input that we have received from residents. And I want to thank every person who attended our meetings and who provided constructive comments. So on November 21st, the working group met to review the discussion to date. At that meeting, Tom McShane provided us with a statement from the Ped Bike Advisory Committee, which voted unanimously to further pursue the project. Following our discussion, the working group approved the following motion: that the Canton Street Working Group, after reviewing the current status of the Canton Street project design, recommends that the Select Board of Westwood authorize the town staff to work with the engineering corporation to further develop the Canton Street project to the 75% design level, including looking at other options available, with the continued advice and input from the Canton Street Working Group. Now, as you may recall, when Steve and I were last before this board in June of 2024, our estimate was that we could get to a new 25% plan with the balance of the funds which had been allocated by town meeting. Shortly after that select board meeting in June, Steve and I met with representatives of MassDOT, and we were authorized to go directly from where we are to a 75% plan. And we believe that we can get to a 75% design without asking for any more funds. As part of the engineering for a 75% plan, TEC or Tech is aware that we need to solve for some of the pinch points in the project to mitigate the impact to the residents and the properties that are most affected. We need to solve for that. And once we get to a 75% design level, there will need to be further public process, further work by the working group before we as a town can decide whether to go forward to that 100% plan, which would require a further allocation in design funds. I'm now going to turn this over to Steve, who will provide some more context and further details on the progress made by the working group. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, and I'll try to keep it brief. But I would like to point out that last September 2023, when this was proposed at a very well-attended hearing, most of the people stood up to speak against it, and I was one of those. And the reason I wanted to point that out is I then volunteered to be on the working group because I believe this could be improved. I thought we should focus on enhancing safety, providing more effective traffic calming, provide non-vehicular access, and also maintain the character of the street. I think we have moved well in that direction, and that's what we're here to report about today. So I also want to acknowledge that it's been a pleasure to work with those who the select board appointed to this committee. We don't always agree, that's an understatement, but we've had good discussion with dedicated volunteers who are driven and also respectful. During the first couple of months of the working group, we looked at several options. And as Mary Ann pointed out, we formed this small group to facilitate that. We looked at having sidewalks on only one side of the street, or having only a sidewalk, I'm sorry, on one side of the street, narrowing the street to diminish impacts, having the shared use path switch between sides, a look at meandering. We tried to look at every option we could to see how to diminish the impacts of this project. And assuming the process will continue, as noted in the motion discussion that we had, we put into that motion to relook at those options as well. We just want to go back and verify the options that we looked at. It's not to go back and redo it, but it's to go back and verify our assumptions at that time. So what have we accomplished since we've been through this process? A little more of the detail is, as Mary Ann already mentioned, the total project is within the right-of-way. Throughout the street, in working with DOT and Tech and neighborhood comments, grass buffers were removed between Adams Street and 240 Canton Street. All of this is to diminish the impacts. We shifted alignment up to 2 feet to the west between Courier Lane and Kilronan Street or Road. We removed buffers between 396 Canton Street and Partridge Drive. We shifted alignment up to a foot to the west between 371 Canton Street and Everett Street. We removed the raised median at Everett Street intersection and shifted the alignment west to 45 Canton Street. That allowed us to create raised crosswalks, which we believe will be a better traffic calming approach and also give access from the westerly side residents to the easterly side to where a path might be. Why am I explaining all this? To summarize it, a year ago, we were talking about impacting 61 walls. Today, it's 31 walls. Also, a year ago, 24 walls were going to be moving well over 10 feet. Today, it's 7 or less. There's also been communication from groups like Scenic American. And we respect the comments of groups like that. That doesn't understand, the people there haven't really looked at this, and I don't think they understand one thing that I want to point out because it's very critical. We are not moving or removing walls and cutting down trees and not replacing them. This plan is to move every wall that's in the way of this project will be reconstructed as it looks now. There's also a belief that trees, not a belief, it's a fact that we have trees all along the street. What is a little bit of a misnomer, and I'll have to confess, I believe that incorrectly too, is that we had a canopy all the way up and down the 2-mile stretch. One of the goals of this plan is to replace trees that do have to be moved, to replace and improve the canopy and the character of the community. And that's going to be an exciting next part of the next phase. So that gives you a quick update of where we are and where we want to go. A lot has changed. We have, again, the big thing is working with DOT. We believe we can go straight to a 75% plan. And we do have a lot of work to do. We do have pinch points. We have things that we need to solve. But now we'll get into engineering, get into landscape architect, and be able to show the community what this project really can turn to. And with that, I'll turn it back to Marianne.
Thank you, Steve. So that's where we are. This board has previously approved going forward with alternative design. I think that is the direction that we should move in. And I will move that we work toward the 75% design level with the remaining funds that have been allocated by town meeting.
Is that's the formal motion? I would second that if that is your motion, Marianne.
That is my motion.
I will second that motion.
All right, any discussion on the motion? Marianne, I still have reservations about the unknown. I will support going forward to the 75%, but I'm very concerned about the impact to the neighborhood and the unknowns that we don't have in writing.
Well, Mr.
Joe,
Chair,
I know I can speak for Steve and myself to say, I mean, Steve is a resident in the neighborhood on Canton Street. We're very concerned about the impact as well, which is why we've spent so much time looking at that. And the process of doing the engineering to that 75% level, I think will cure a lot of the unknowns that you're referring to. And so we're anxious to solve for that through that process. Steve, anything you'd like to add there?
Yeah, I'd just like to remind everyone that to get to this point, of course, there's engineering, but it's more conceptual than engineering. And landscape architects have not been a part of the process to get to, it never is at this point. By going to the next level, I think that our entire neighborhood will start to see what the potential is of a project like this. And to Joe, to your comment, that's when the questions start getting really answered. All of us have a commitment that are working on this to do it right. We have a couple of 3 locations that it's just not acceptable where we are very candidly right now. We have talked to those residents, those property owners, and we let them know we're going to solve this or we're not going to go forward. And so that is what we do once we get the engineering and landscape architects going. So yeah, we all acknowledge there's still a lot of work to do, but now we can get the people to get us the answer the questions that we have.
Mr. Chair, I'd also like to add that echo the thanks to Steve and all the members of the working group. I mean, this is essentially why we put them together, was to explore the art of the possible, right? And in order to properly do that, as Steve just pointed out, I think we need to get through this 75% design to be able to answer as many of those open questions as possible. And that's really the engineering that need to be done. So I'm supportive of moving to that 75% for that reason.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Steve. I just want to reiterate, I think you've all done a terrific job in trying to solve and answer some of the questions. I'm just extremely anxious about the unknowns and what it's going to cost the town. So,
Joe,
yeah.
there is a question in the chat, actually a couple. Would you like me to take those? I think
Please.
they're
Yep.
addressed to me. They're both from Maureen White, 568 Canton Street, who is a member of our working group. And she writes, excuse me, if we are at 25% design on June 24, Marianne, you stated you would expect to know about mitigation to walls and trees. If we are at 25%, is there an answer to that? I would say, Maureen, as you know, we have discussed this in the working group, and Mass Dot has indicated that we will have mitigation to walls and trees. Of course, as Steve was referring to, the engineering has to be done on that, and that's a big part of what we're going to be looking for in that engineering. Steve, do you have anything you want to add there?
Well, I think just one thing, just so everyone understands that a lot of time, most projects like this, the state or the funding source would not pay for all the tree replacement that we're doing. The fact that this is a scenic road opens that purse for us. And that's why we're getting assurance from the state that unless we don't, as long as we do the types of things we're talking about and don't go beyond that, it seems to be support to have that funded by the state.
Maureen also asked another question. She said, how much of the 900,000 has been spent thus far? And the answer is 492,000.
Thanks, Marianne. Why don't we just give that 30 seconds in case someone else has a question? Otherwise, I think we can move on. Like one more.
Yes, there's a question from Maura Van Wagenen, 181 Canton Street. Please explain what 75% process involves. Steve, I'm going to defer to you on this because with your planning board experience, you have much more lived experience with that.
Well, this is where the architects and the engineers really dig in, look at what.
You're meeting up at the Pine Hill. I think, Steve, you gave just about everyone a chance to speak that had any questions or comments. I'm prepared to go forward with Marianne's motion. Rob, you seconded that, correct?
I did.
Okay. Roll call. Marianne.
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
I will vote aye as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Next, we have Pat. I think you're up.
I think we're joined by Dan Bailey himself. It's a conflict waiver. Can you bring Dan in?
I'm in right now.
Thank you. Mr. Bailey is, and Dan, correct me if I state something wrong. Mr. Bailey is asking for a conflict waiver. He's looking to represent John Salvatore and the Salvatore Realty Group in connection with a potential single-family residential development of 529 High Street, adjacent to the Colburn building. We've done this for Dan in the past. Dan is special counsel to us on a number of items, although a little bit slow right now. But Dan's asked for that. And Dan, is there anything you want to add to that request?
No, it's pretty straightforward. John called me the other day, actually, after Mike Perkins suggested that he call. And, he's trying to figure out with Mike some zoning issues there, whether he can in fact do a single family residence. And there's some overlap with the colonial building. And I don't know any of the specifics yet, but I can remember, from town meetings in the past that there have been issues there. So he asked if I could help him sort that out. And I'm asking the board for a conflict waiver to let myself and my firm, Pierce Atwood, do so.
I don't have a problem with this request.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Dan. Just maybe my hearing, but we're talking about 529 High Street. Is that correct?
That is
Yeah.
correct.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Rob or Marianne, do you folks have any questions?
No
Nope.
questions, and I do not have a problem with it either.
Great. Would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I move that the select board approve a conflict waiver to authorize Pierce Atwood LLP, Daniel Bailey, and any attorney working under Mr. Bailey's supervision to represent John Salvatore and Salvatore Realty Group and its affiliates in connection with real estate matters at 529 and 541 High Street.
Second that motion.
Roll call. Marianne?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Unanimous. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Good to
you.
see you all.
You
You
too,
too.
Dan.
Next, we have financial update from Molly Fitzpatrick.
This is me
okay,
pretending to be Stephanie.
Okay. Molly, you're up.
All right, give me 1 second. I'm just going to share my screen. All right, so Stephanie McManus couldn't be here today, but she asked that I give a very brief overview of the FY26 proposed capital budget articles. So that is what I'm going to do. So each year, the select board has supported continued reinvestment in the town's asset and infrastructure. Capital articles are built each year from the submissions from different departments included in the 5-year capital improvement plan, which was distributed in November and is available online. All projects listed in the articles that I'm about to talk about are detailed in that document. So for the FY26 budget specifically, the proposed capital budgets continue a high level of capital improvement. This is important to maintain town and school buildings and infrastructure, and also important to ensure safe and efficient capital equipment. We do this through consistent investment through base capital and additionally continued efforts for additional funding beyond our base capital for important projects. There are 3 categories for capital. The first is the base capital, which is funded through free cash. As proposed, the municipal capital improvement is just over 1.5 million. The proposed school capital improvement is just over 1.1 million. It is our recommendation to increase these amounts from the FY25 current allocation. The base capital has been level funded for approximately 6 years, so this increase over the FY25 base capital would be 292,000, or approximately a 12% increase. Then there's the additional capital budget, which is funded through free cash, the meals and hotel tax, and other funding sources. Appropriation for additional capital is similar as done in previous years, and I will go through those in a couple of slides. The additional capital improvement is just over 1.4 million, funded with both meals and hotels tax and free cash. There's additionally a sewer capital improvement, which is about 75,000 funded with sewer retained earnings, and then what we're calling other capital improvements, which is 885,000 funded with ambulance receipts and cemetery trust funds. There is one capital project that would require borrowing, and that is the sewer borrowing article in the amount of 500,000. This is the MWRA inflow and infiltration I&I program, which is done every other year for the last several years. So drilling down into the specifics, there's two main funding sources for base capital articles and additional capital articles. The first is free cash. As of July 1st, 2024, the town's free cash was certified by the DOR in the amount of $14,302,047. Per the town's financial policies, the free cash balance needs to be maintained at 4% of the general fund operating budget net debt service, which for FY25 is $4.2 million. The second is the meals and hotel tax. At the November 2017 town meeting, residents approved establishing a special purpose fund to hold hotel and meals tax revenue until appropriated by future town meetings. Funds have been used by town meeting for capital projects, not operating budgets, and a current balance in the meals and hotel tax account is $2.3 million. And I should note that nothing was funded for FY25 capital with meals and hotel tax. There are also dedicated funding source for capital articles. These are restricted funding sources specific to their specific area. So the first would be ambulance receipts with a current unreserved balance of $1.5 million. The second, sewer retained earnings with a fund balance of $2.9 million. And then the cemetery perpetual care receipts or cemetery trust fund. Receipts in this fund may not be expended, but the earnings or interest on the fund may be. So the current balance of expendable funds in this account is approximately $60,000. So moving into the actual articles, the first we have is the proposed municipal capital article in the amount of $1,525,000. This is consistent with prior years. The town is committed to investing in its public works, public safety, and other infrastructure. So this includes things like DPW trucks, police vehicles, fire equipment. These are items that are on a replacement schedule. So we're following the schedule to keep them replaced in a timely manner. Other areas include end user technology, building maintenance, things that are ongoing capital needs that we want to make sure that we stay on top of. I'm happy to go through any of these items if there's any questions about them, but if not, I'm also happy to move on to the next slide.
I don't have any questions. Rob, Mary Ann?
None at this time.
Okay. So then we move into the proposed school-based capital. These are their normal categories: technology, HVAC, building improvements, similar to the municipal-based capital. These are ongoing capital needs that we want to make sure that we stay on top of. And the total base school capital is $1,140,000. So in addition to the base municipal and school capital, each year the town proposes additional capital to be funded with free cash and meals and hotel tax. So these are the categories for this year. The first, town hall renovation and reconfiguration. This is for the lower level of town hall. The town hall roof replacement, which is up on the roof replacement schedule. DPW garages, meeting room technology, town school financial enterprise software system. This would be the software that handles the town's finances, town and school finances and payroll. Generator replacement at both the Council on Aging and library lighting system replacement, and 2 additional study rooms at the library. As proposed, this totals $1,414,500, $800,000 of which is proposed through free cash, and $612,000 as proposed through meals and hotel tax revenue.
Molly, I have one question on that.
Yeah.
The generator replacement.
Mm-hmm.
Stephanie line up a grant from someone's office, maybe Representative Murphy and Mike Rush?
I don't know if it was Senator Rush or if it was McMurtry, but there was a grant for $200,000, and that covered the generators at Wentworth Hall and a backup at the police, I believe. So the COA and the library were not able to be covered through that grant.
Got it. Thank you.
And that was Senator Rush's office for the generator.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There was a budget earmark, yes. And we just to remind everyone, we also received through that a budget earmark in the amount of $100,000 for FS1 design, which we are greatly appreciative for the work they've done.
Chris, can I ask you one question? On those generators that are being replaced and the new ones being installed, how can we get those, if they fail, to alarm at public safety? Can that be incorporated into this install?
We can certainly talk to Jimmy. I know that through our facilities director, Jimmy McCarthy, he has all the generators tested. And the situation we had almost a year ago at public safety, the generator was tested 2 weeks earlier and yet still failed. But I can certainly talk to him about using the technology to notify him as well as public safety regarding when those generators go off. He does have a service that is used when there's a situation that does come up with the generator. But I can certainly talk to him about the install for these. And just to be clear, this is a replacement of a generator that we have at COA. And this is for a generator that we've never had at the library. One of the benefits of this generator for the library is it's often used as a respite area, it could be used as a cooling shelter. It's difficult to do that when you don't have a generator.
Thank you, Chris. My concern was, I'll take the Islington Fire Station, for example, gets tested on Wednesday mornings. Well, if the personnel aren't in the station on Wednesday morning and the test doesn't go as planned, and then the next week they're out on a call Wednesday morning and the test doesn't go as planned. There's an enunciator light, but not everyone is aware what the enunciator light means. And number two, our public safety people pretty astute to responding to alarms. That's my concern.
Okay, I'll certainly speak with them. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, Molly, thank you.
Great. So then moving on to the proposed other capital articles, these are categories funded with dedicated funding sources. The first is Stormwater MS4. This is requested annually to keep up with our compliance with federal mandates surrounding stormwater. It's in the amount of $75,000, which would be taken from the sewer retained earnings. Then there's the one sewer capital borrowing article, the one article that requires borrowing that we're proposing. That's for the inflow and infiltration program. This is done every other year. The town's existing sewer infrastructure is aging and in some places failing, allowing for groundwater to inflow and infiltrate into the pipes. And so this program investigates the inflow and infiltration to identify the places of most need. So the borrowing article is in the amount of $500,000, which is in the form of an MWRA loan. 25% is a zero interest loan and 75% is a grant from the MWRA. And then the truly other revenue sources, the first is a cemetery tractor for the cemetery that would come from the Cemetery Trust Fund. Rescue upgrade and replacement equipment for the fire department that would come from ambulance receipts. And then a fire engine replacement that would replace fire engine 1, also coming from ambulance receipts. So in summary, base capital is consistent with what we've done in prior years, as is additional. There's no large borrowing articles. There's just the standard MWRA loan that is requested every other year. So while I am not Stephanie McManus, I would be delighted to attempt to answer any questions that you might have. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Strong work, Molly. Strong work.
Thank you.
I don't have any questions. Rob, Marianne, do you folks? I thought it was a good presentation.
Nice job, Molly. I mean, I would just say, I don't have any questions, other than I would agree that we should be increasing the amount that we allocate to this base capital. Hasn't increased in a number of years. Several of the years where have been sort of higher inflationary years. So in order for us to keep pace and ensure the proper investment levels in the equipment and the capital infrastructure, I think that's a wise move at this time.
Thank you, Rob. I don't think we need a vote on this, do we, Pat? No.
This is just informational.
Excellent.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Sure.
so first of all, Molly, thank you very much. Great presentation. You filled in for Stephanie very well. Just the other thing, if there's any other questions that the board has or suggestions regarding the capital planning submittals, please feel free to reach out to myself, Stephanie, or Molly. And we can certainly get any information that you may need to you or try to answer the questions that you may have. This is still going to be a very fluid process. We will continue to provide, excuse me, updates to the board as we go through our annual budget process.
Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman, you have a Q&A that I believe is somewhat related to capital.
Great. This is Kathy Wallace, 283 Farm Lane. In addition to the 492,000 that has been spent from the 900,000, when and how was the 250,000 from Top Golf expended? And Chris, I think you did some research on this. Can you handle that question?
Chris?
Sorry, yes, yeah, yes, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so I had a conversation with Todd about this, and the $250,000 that was received from Top Golf was invested in what the select board around 2018 asked to have done, which was to look at the initial stages of a potential sidewalk along Canton Street and work to include a survey along with coming up with preliminary plans that looked at incorporating a town layout and overall feasibility of potential pedestrian accommodations. Although this was not directly related to, because at the time no one knew of the grant opportunity, or the grant opportunity wasn't presented at that time, this was not part of the work that Todd and the Canton Street group had done. But the work that was done with that 250,000 did help with future plannings to determine how future funds could be applied to the plan that we have before us right now.
Okay, thank you. Is there another? Okay. I think we're good. Let's move on to our next item, Conservation Gift Fund Allocation Request, plant trees at Westwood High School. Select Board is going to review a request from the Westwood School Committee Capital Project Subcommittee for an allocation of funds from the Westwood Conservation Gift Fund to replace trees at Westwood High School. And I think Maya Plotkin is with us this evening. Is Maya here?
I am. Hello.
Excellent. Thank you. Good
Thank
to
you
see
for
you.
having me. Good to see you.
Would you like to tell us, give us some background on this?
Sure. So as you all know, we have been working on trying to install solar canopies in the rear parking lot of the Westwood High School since I think we first heard Amoresco in front of the school committee in June of 2022. So this has been a little bit of a process. There were certain delays that, impacted the project timing. And in the spring, we sort of reconvened and Amoresco came and presented again. And we, we're all in favor of moving forward. We really want this project to happen. It's really going to help the town get toward its goal in terms of energy production and moving away from reliance on fossil fuels. So we're very excited to have this project happen. We went in front of the planning board because the project, due to the delays, required a modification to the permit. We've gone in front of the planning board twice since this sort of revision to the permit came up. At the last meeting on November 2024, the planning board approved a modification to the permit on one condition. And basically, over the course of 20 years since the Westwood High School was constructed, based on the permitting at that time, over the course of 25 years, a number of trees have been removed from the property for various reasons. Either, we removed them from islands in the parking lot to create more parking spaces, which was, of course, both a town and a school request to accommodate concerns from the neighbors. We also removed trees that were dead and had to be removed for safety reasons. But as a result, a number of trees were removed from the property. And even though, these trees are not necessarily located where the solar panels are going to go, the planning board was very interested in addressing the removal of those trees in connection with this project. So on November 19th, just a couple weeks ago, the planning board approved a modification whereby Amoresco would donate $6,000 to the Westwood Public Schools so that the Westwood schools could purchase a number of trees to replant on the property somewhere, probably not in this area, that wouldn't make sense, but somewhere on the property, and also requested that we go in front of the select board to ask for funds from the Conservation Gift Fund to purchase hopefully an additional number of trees for an amount, you know, we're saying not to exceed 6,000, similar to the Amoresco contribution. We're hoping between Amoresco and if the select board approves funds from the Conservation Gift Fund, we would be able to purchase about 10 trees and have those replanted at some point somewhere on the property. And doing this would bring the property into compliance with the permit, so we would not have this issue going forward for any future projects. So that's why I'm here. I'm here to request the release of funds from the Conservation Gift Fund not to exceed $6,000 in an effort to purchase trees to satisfy the conditions, or at least the request of the planning board. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Maya. Rob or Marianne, you folks have any questions?
I mean, I've been following this very closely from the beginning because I've been very fully committed to seeing the solar array come to fruition at Westwood High School. It's going to be a real cornerstone, as you know, we've heard from Tom Philbin, towards reaching our renewable energy objectives as a community. I have a procedural question, I guess, and I think this may be for Nora or town council. The way this motion's written, it kind of feels like we're ceding our decision-making authority to the Concom, and I'm not particularly comfortable with that as a precedent. So can somebody explain why it's proceeding sort of sequentially this way?
So I can speak to that. The Conservation Commission is just a matter of timing. They don't meet again until Wednesday night. So your meeting was coming before them. It's completely within the select board's authority to release these funds with or without a recommendation from the Conservation Commission. But our practice has been in the past, in a similar account, we have a sidewalk fund that the planning board collects that the select board also authorized use of. So when that fund is used, the planning board is asked to give a recommendation to the select board, and then the select board makes its decision, which can be in favor, it can match what the recommendation is, or can be different. We were affording the same opportunity to the Conservation Commission, but they don't meet until Wednesday night. So I think the options are to either just have the select board grant their approvals. We'll still ask the Conservation Commission to provide an after the fact recommendation. Or if the select board wishes to wait for that recommendation, the official granting of the funds could be at your next meeting. I think that Amoresco is very interested in getting this matter resolved as soon as possible, which is why we're asking you to consider it tonight ahead of the Conservation Commission's recommendation. I also want to point out that the funds in the account are not all being requested. So there was a balance as of this morning of $2,400 in that account. We received a donation of $14,400 today from LifeWorks. That's a wonderful community organization on Clabbertree Street that serves the needs of differently abled community members. And they had a project that was before the Planning Board and the Conservation Commission that required the removal of trees. Rather than put new trees on their site, which was already very heavily forested, the recommendation was that they submit funds to the tree fund. So they happily brought in a check today for $14,400. So that brings the balance available for trees to $16,800. So if the board was to grant this tonight and allow $6,000 to be used by the school department for the purchase and installation of trees, along with Amoresco's contribution up to 10 trees, that still leaves over $10,000, enough for another 9 trees somewhere else on town property. And the goal of the reason the tree fund was established was to plant trees on town property. So I think this request is fully within the guidelines that the Conservation Commission would consider, and it's not asking for all of the funds. It's not even asking for half of the funds they have available. So I feel confident that the Conservation Commission will support this, but we can't get that vote from them until Wednesday night.
So, Rob,
Nora. Sorry,
ahead,
I
Pat.
just want to speak to the timing of this. As you know, a lot of this project is reliant on steel, and steel has an incredibly long lead time currently. And so Amoresco in the planning board meeting was a little bit concerned even coming to a December meeting, but that's why we're here sort of before Concom. Amoresco needs to order steel in order to make the summer of 2025 deadline. So I just wanted to give a little context about the timing of this.
And
So Rob, the short answer is I believe you have complete authority over the gift fund that's being talked about here under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53A. So you're not in any way upheld by the draft motion, is what I'm trying to tell you. You have the authority to expend the funds.
And I want to add that, I watched the entire planning board meeting at which this was discussed at great length. And clearly, time is of the essence with respect to Amoresco. So, with all due respect to the Conservation Commission and their voice, I just don't think that this can wait. And I would be in favor of a motion approving the allocation of $6,000, but not contingent upon any recommendation from the Concom, so that we can be sure that we're getting this done. We're meeting the deadlines for this very important project for the town's energy goals.
I'd also like to point out this was an opportunity for a great collaborative effort that got us to a terrific solution for a very difficult problem. The planning board, the school department, the school committee, the select board, and all of the land use staff were involved. And I can't imagine the Conservation Commission not wanting to be a part of that creative solution.
I have one more concern just about the motion itself, and it has to do with during that long discussion, I heard various costs thrown about as to, size of trees and costs related to different caliper sizes and such. And the motion as it's before us is to purchase at least 5 trees to replace the trees previously removed. I would like to strike any reference to, because in the event that the 5,000 or 6,000 that you're requesting doesn't cover 5 trees, I'm fine with up to the $6,000, but I don't want to be dipping back in if for some reason 6,000 only pays for 4 trees.
And Nora, I don't think that would affect the planning board's approval, correct?
So the planning board was anticipating the request for $6,000, and they noted in their decision that the decision required the planting of 10 trees using the funds from Amoresco and whatever funds come from the select board. And I do feel if you planted the trees today, the total of $12,000 would be more than sufficient to cover 10 trees. They won't be planted until September. It could go up a little bit, but maybe we can get creative in how the trees are planted if we find we're running out of funds. And if worse comes to worse, there's more funds in the tree fund, and there will probably be more by then, because other applicants who are unable to replace trees on their property will be donating to this fund. So I would recommend that the select board, if you're comfortable doing so, release $6,000 tonight with the purpose of planting the trees at Westwood High School, and hopefully that will be more than sufficient. Hopefully we'll get more than 10 trees out of it. That's a possibility.
All right. Thank you, Nora. Rob, this is Canton Street. Rob, are you satisfied with what Nora and Maya had to say?
I guess I would amend the motion to just say, I move the select board approve an allocation from the conservation gift fund not to exceed $6,000 for the purchase of trees to replace trees previously removed from the Westwood High School property, and sort of end it there. Mary Ann has expressed concern about the contingent upon, and I agree with that. And I don't know that there's any harm done in my modification to the motion.
Could I ask that you say purchase and installation? Because the funds will be used for both.
Maya, are you comfortable with that language?
Yeah, I mean,
I mean,
You
we don't
know-
want to run afoul of,
yeah, I think the planning board was focusing on 10 trees. We have 6,000 from Amoresco. We thought that 6,000 from this gift would be sufficient to purchase, to purchase the trees. Our only goal in the school committee, as I have said repeatedly, I think in planning board and school committee, our only goal is that we really don't want to use the school capital funds if we can find alternatives, because we feel those are better used toward our facilities. But I think to Nora's point, hopefully, we can take the 6,000 plus the 6,000 with 12,000, purchase 10 trees. And even if I don't think there is a requirement on the size, correct, Nora? So even if we get saplings,
So I think the trees, the size has to be approved by the town planner. The planning board typically requires 3.5 to 4 inch caliber trees, but we can, if tree prices go up astronomically, which I doubt they will in the next year, but if that happens, we will address it at that time. And if a smaller size tree has to be approved, we'll cross that
Okay.
bridge when we come to it.
great.
But right
And
now, as of today, you would be able to buy a 3.5 caliber tree, depending on the variety it is, from anywhere from $450 to $600. And then the installation cost is about the same as the cost of the tree. So anywhere from $900 to $1,200 would cover a tree. So I think we'll be good.
Okay, and we'll try and do this maybe in the spring. I know we're going to be working with town planner and to figure out where these trees should go. So well, I know spring is a planting season as well, so maybe we could do it then sooner rather.
That
You know,
would be
we just want-
terrific. That'd be terrific, and we'd probably be closer to getting the prices we know are in existence today. So
Yeah.
anytime between April 15th and June 14th, June 15th would work.
Man, I understand and respect the reluctance of the school committee to allocate the sort of precious limited capital. I mean, you're following Molly giving a capital update. And so, I would much rather your capital go to fixing things like roofs or heating systems and things like that, where our students are educated, right? The end of the day, we are one town with one pie. So I'm in favor of the $6,000, and this solar canopy is going to provide both shade and carbon sequestration. If I remember what was said in your meeting with the planning board, that was equivalent to something like 6,000 trees.
6,000 trees, yeah.
Let's not get the forest, lose sight of the forest for the trees here. Let's just get this done.
yeah. And
would
to that end, Rob, I'm going to suggest we use the motion.
I think I've got it, Mary Ann.
Okay, but
I
I think
mean,
it should
changes-
include at
change-
least 5 trees. That was the discussion at the planning board. I think we should keep that in, minus our recommendation being contingent on any other recommendation.
Okay, so now the 5 trees are back in.
I think, I mean, this was extensively discussed at the planning board. I think, as far as collaborating, getting everybody on the same page, we can clearly do it with this allocation. I think that's probably the cleanest way to do it. I'm
And
happy to
we'll-
make a motion.
No, I've had enough trees and enough lead time on steel. I think it's time to move forward. We've got other matters here. Let me take a stab at what I heard from you and Rob. For the select board to approve an allocation from the conservation gift fund not to exceed $6,000 to purchase and installation of at least 5 trees to replace trees previously removed from the Westwood High School property, period.
Second,
Hang on, procedurally, someone's going to adopt that motion.
So moved.
and I
Thank you.
second it.
Thanks, Rob. Let's get rid of these trees and steel. Mamma mia. Roll call, Mary Ann.
Aye.
Rob.
Aye.
I vote aye as well, unanimous. Mayor, thank you very much. And Rob, Mary Ann, thanks for your input on that.
Thank
Thanks,
you
ma'am.
all. Appreciate your time.
Good night.
Bye.
This brings us up to our annual town meeting warrant. This is to have the select board open the warrant for the 2025 annual spring town meeting to be held on May 19th. This is new ground for me, so let me read what's in front of me here. We'll open the town meeting warrant through the final month of the calendar year for any articles that may be proposed for consideration at the annual town meeting. In addition to the standard business articles, select board must accept any petition articles that are submitted with 10 or more signatures of registered voters. Petitioners are encouraged to present review draft of their petition language with the Finance and Warrant Commission, select board member, and/or town council before obtaining signatures to ensure the petition can be acted upon by town meeting. Traditionally, the select board accepts all articles submitted by a majority of vote. Any committee, commission, or board department heads that have asked to submit articles to be sponsored by the select board. A copy of the draft 2025 annual town meeting list of articles, I'm assuming, is below. The list of articles is draft only for internal review. The draft articles list includes placeholders for miscellaneous articles, 11 at the moment. The article list will be reviewed and updated over the next few months as needed. A final list will be presented to the January 6, 2025 select board meeting, when the board will close the annual town meeting warrant for 2025. Pat, do you want me to read these articles?
No, all I want you to do, this is a procedural vote to open the warrant to allow us to develop the warrant for Springtown meeting.
I didn't have to read all that?
No,
No.
well, it was good, Joe.
Yeah. All right. Do I have a motion?
You do. I hereby move that the select board open the town meeting warrant for the 2025 annual town meeting and further indicate our plans to close the warrant at our first meeting in January of 2025.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Yes, I will second that motion. Sorry.
Roll call. Mary Ann?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Warrant is open. Now we go down to old business.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to recuse myself from the next agenda item. Tish, if you wouldn't mind texting me when to come back. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, there's a Q&A.
Okay, thank you, Pat.
Before I head out, I saw that question from Maura Van Wagenen. I think I answered this one before. Can you tell us the total that has been spent?
I believe you did.
Yes.
Okay. With that, I'm gonna sign off and I'll be back. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary Ann.
Mr. Chair, would you like me to take this one for you?
Gladly.
Okay, as you know, we get funds in from Comcast and Verizon per our contracts for PEG access, and that we transfer that funding then over to Westwood Media Center. So I will outline what we are about to transfer to Westwood Media Center. We have from Comcast an amount in the $41,727.69, which was received on November 6th. We also have a $4,000, $346.67 amount also received on November 6th. Then we have a $38,991.70 franchise fee that we received on November 15th from Verizon, totaling $85,066.06. So I would move that we transfer the amount of $46,074.36 from Comcast, as well as $38,991.70 from Verizon, totaling the aforementioned $85,066.06 to Westwood Media Center per the license agreements and the Westwood Media Center agreement that was signed by the Select Board.
I'll second that out of necessity. Roll call, Rob?
Aye.
I vote aye as well, unanimous. Tish, if you could give Mary Ann a heads up, please. Thank you, Rob.
You're welcome.
I'm back, Joe.
Thanks, Mary Ann. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now we're down to select board liaison reports. Mary Ann, we got your report on Canton Street. Is there anything else you'd like to report on?
Not tonight. Thank you.
Okay. I'll report on the housing partnership, fair housing. We did hold a meeting November 14th, looking at the production plan for 2025. Prior to this, Amanda Wolf did a great job with a needs assessment and helped us put that plan together. I do want to put a plug in for the housing production plan community visioning session to be held December 12th at 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. at the Westwood Library. There'll be some hands-on activities. It's a visioning. The public is welcome, and we certainly appreciate your input. And a special thanks to Wegmans for providing the snacks for that evening. And the off-leash dog park group, we held 3 meetings. Our next one is scheduled for December 19th at the Westwood Public Library at 6:30 p.m. The numbers are increasing on these meetings, which is great. We've gotten some great feedback from folks. We're still very focused on the Shuttleworth parcel and possibly developing a trail there for people to walk and exercise their dogs and get exercise themselves. But at the last meeting, we also got quite a bit of feedback from folks about having a standalone dog park for some of the smaller dogs elsewhere in town. We'll be exploring that more at the December 19th meeting. And that's it from mine. Rob, do you have anything you'd like to update us on? LP?
Sure. We last met on the 18th of November, and the Long Range Financial Planning Committee met the morning after on the 19th. After I gave them sort of a brief update on what had transpired up until that point with respect to Fire Station 1, we got some reports from different folks who were doing research with respect to the request from this board to look at a real estate transfer fee. And so we have a variety of work streams that are being put together there. We had some updates as to other communities that had looked at or adopted such fees. We have some further research that needs to be done with respect to the amounts that those might have raised if they had been, adopted at certain levels over the past 10 years. So that's some work that's being done. And then on that, so that was Tuesday night after our meeting. And then on the Thursday night after that meeting, I was at the WEAC meeting. We gave them an update on a number of things. They talked a lot about the community choice electric program. They talked about the success of their repair cafe where people can bring things in and get them repaired. And then they also talked about an initiative they've got going on right now in conjunction with, I believe, DPW with respect to holiday lights. So it's that time of year as you're breaking your lights out of your attic, and sometimes you find they don't work and you need to get new lights. Those things can't go in the recycle bin, so please make sure you don't put them there. They do have drop-off centers for collecting those holiday lights. So I would ask that anybody that has those and doesn't want to put them into the waste stream, do so at one of the drop centers. So you can probably, I believe they have even a public service announcement, or you can watch the in-session that Kate LaCroix did following that meeting to get the specifics. I don't have those off the top of my head. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. And then the last one was the school permanent building committee. That was the one meeting that week that I took the liberty to skip so that I could have a little time with my family. So that's my update.
You guys have been busy. Excellent update, Rob. Thanks very much. And I do want to say I heard some comments about purchasing savings with the conglomerate on the electricity. I did the calc on mine. I'm doing at least saving $10, $12 a month, and I'll take it. Good for a pizza. So that WEAC group, very impressive, strong work. All right, that brings us down to minutes for the November 18th meeting. Any discussion on those?
I'm happy to bring a motion that we approve the minutes of our meeting of November 18, 2024 as written.
I can second that motion.
Roll call, Mary Ann,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
I vote aye as well. And that brings us down to other business that may come before the board, public and press. And while we're waiting to see if there's any hands raised or anything there, our next meeting will be held January 6, 2025 at 6 p.m. via Zoom. Oh, I wasn't aware it was till January. I'm glad I got the Christmas tie on for at least one meeting. Got a whole rack of them, Rob. I'm gonna get my money through. All right, I don't see anything, Tish. Are we good to go?
You are good to go, no questions.
All right, our next order of business is executive session. Select Board will be going into executive session to discuss two issues. One pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, 3, to discuss strategy with respect to potential litigation involving the property at 637 High Street. And the second pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, 3, to discuss strategy with respect to potential litigation involving the property at 665 Clapper Tree Street, discussion of which would have a detrimental effect on the position of the governing body if the discussion were to be held in open session. The public needs to know we will not be returning to open session. And I need a roll call on this to go into executive session.
I hereby move that we go into executive session for the aforementioned reasons.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call, Mary Ann,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
I vote aye as well. It's unanimous. Thank you, folks. Thanks for your participation, and I'll see my colleagues on the other side.
Happy holidays, everyone.